Hey everybody. Tonight we're going to tie a pattern that you see here called a gurgler. And a gurgler, it's actually one of my favorite bass and panfish patterns. But it really wasn't designed for that. It was designed in the early 90s by Jack Garth side um, for East Coast striper fishing. And it's designed to imitate uh, a wounded minnow. Um, I think bass and panfish take it as a maybe a small frog, maybe a wounded minnow. Who knows? Whatever they take it for, but it does definitely work, and it's fairly easy to tie. So, with that being said, let's tie one up. All right, I'm gonna put a hook in the vise. This is a size 4 streamer hook, and it's a light wire hook, which works well for these floating foam patterns. Um, Other materials we're going to need, I'm going to use UTC 140 and Chartreuse. I'm going to use a little bit of Krystal chenille, pearl, UV pearl, um, and also some UV pearl flash. And then finally, we're going to use some bucktail, green bucktail. All right, get started. First thing we're going to do is put a layer of thread on the hook, wrapping all the way down. Gonna stop right where the bend, right when the bend starts. And then we're gonna come back up to about halfway up the hook shank. And then we're gonna get our tail, which is we want to keep it fairly sparse, but yet we want it certainly visible when it gets wet. So it's everybody has their own liking to how much or how little the tail should be. So you just cut a piece, pull out all the short fibers, and and then what I do is I hand stack the bucktail. Try to get it as stacked. I mean, it doesn't have to be. You don't really want it to be, stacked in a stacker, but you don't want it to be out of control either. So something like that. Just keep pulling out strands, something like that. All right. So the tail's going to be actually 2 hook lengths long. So we're going to measure 1 hook length. We're going to come down 2 hook lengths. There's our tying point. So what's inside of our fingers, what's inside of our hand is the correct length. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut that off. And we're going to put it up against the bend of the hook. And we're going to tie that in right on top. And just hold it up, hold it exactly where you want it as you wrap back, and it'll stay. Very good. And then I put a few wraps underneath the tail. It just kind of props it up. And I find that it helps with fouling the hook. Hook doesn't foul as much when you do that. Next, we're going to take our Krystal flash, and I use 3 strands and double it over, so there's 6 strands total. Um, you can use as much if you like more, use more. If you don't even want to add it, that's fine. The Krystal flash, we're going to double it over the thread. We're going to bring it up to the top of the hook, pull it back, and then just wrap back again right on top of the hook shank. Now you can flare it to both sides of the tail, but I don't find that that's necessary. Now we want our tail to be just slightly longer than our bucktail, a little bit longer. Perfect. All right. At this point, I'll take a little bit of super glue and I'll just super glue everything. Not too much here. And That'll just bond that to the hook shank, and then nothing will pull out. All right, so now we have our body. I don't know if I showed you this, but this is the body that I use. These are bodies that I actually use a laser engraver to cut out. But you can use a just a regular strip of foam, and what you want to do is kind of gauge it to be the width of the gap of the hook, and that'll give you a good idea of the correct size. So we're going to come back, and this little tab is our tying in tab. We're going to put the body right at the end of the tail, and we're going to tie in our tab. Now we have that super glue. It's still wet, so that's actually going to help bond. And then we want to pull up. We want to make sure that you see there we have some thread wraps. We don't want any thread wraps when we pull up. So we're going to go back and keep testing it till we don't have any thread wraps. That's pretty good right there. All right. And then we can come up and we're going to get our Krystal chenille, and we're going to tie that in. Like I said, this is a fairly easy pattern, but it's so effective. It's definitely one you want to have in your box. We're going to tie that Krystal chenille in all the way back, come back up to the front, and then we're just going to palmer that. Try to keep your fibers facing to the rear as you wrap, just touching wraps all the way up. Just get a little bit of flash, gives a little bit of a bulk to your body, and it's a good attractor. All right, we're going to continue to wind all the way up to the front. And keep going we just want maybe a hook eye length behind the eye, and then we can stop. Just tie that off. Cut that off. All right. Just pull everything back and kind of bind it. Keep the hook eye kind of clear. All right, now we're going to test fit our foam. We want the foam to stick out over the eye. And you see that has the curve in it. So we're going to have that curve right behind the eye. So we want to fold it, and we can either stretch it or you can make it bunch it up just to get to that tie-in position. And once you're there, you can just start binding it down. You can also put a little super glue on the underbody so it kind of bonds to the body, but that's okay. I don't necessarily do that all the time. I'm just going to put some loose thread wraps to start. And then once we get a few wraps, then we can wrap tighter wraps. That way we're not going to cut our foam. And when that's done, we can come up to the front and we can do a whip finish. Kind of hard to whip finish behind a camera. All right, now we can whip finish. I'm gonna do 3 or 4 or 5 wraps up in your whip finish, and we're gonna bind it. We're gonna use a little super glue to lock everything in place. Trim out any stragglers we have here. And then we're gonna finish it up. Actually, before we add the super glue, we're gonna cut. What we want to do is we want to kind of get rid of these corners and give it that kind of shape head. I don't even know what kind of shape that is, but yeah, we're just going to cut the corners, and it actually helps when you cast. It helps it fly through the air better and land appropriately. With the corners on, it just doesn't land as well. Now we're going to hit all of our thread wraps with a little bit of the super glue. And that's it. That's your fly. Like I said, it's very easy. It's a quick tie. Doesn't take a lot of materials, but it's super effective. And definitely, if you're gonna chase bass or panfish this summer, you should have some in your box. All right, that's it. Have a good night.